Wow, that's fast, Cookie Games. I'm literally streaming 1 second. How did you do that? Hmm. Hi. Good day. There's a... My name is way too short. Add. I can't grab for that. Now I try to grab for this thing, I guess, and then maybe find back where I added. Maybe that. Yep. Well, that's frame resource. Oh, here. So here it is being added. That is shader input data dot shader stage create infos returns a vector of VK pipeline shader stage create info. Which is this one. That was the one, right? That was the one, right? Yep. So nothing was added to this vector. Which means we never got here. Yeah, that's correct. I'm not calling build shader. So we never get here. Well, it's super annoying. Uh-oh. This requires the module handle, aka the shader must be compiled. Don't tell me. Don't tell me that in the end it's not possible. So this vector cannot be filled until after I compile the shader, which I cannot do until after I know the descriptor set and indexes and bindings. And yet it seems that it wants to know it already before that point. Let me check again where there's No debug. What the hell? Oh, it's still here. We're still in it. This merge happens at the moment I try to get flat create info 223, which is required in order to... Don't tell me that. Don't tell me this. At the moment I know the descriptor set indices and bindings after this call. But I can only compile the shaders after that point, which means I cannot do that one. And I don't have to, because I need it much later. What do I need of all these merge things? I'm merging like crazy here, but the only thing that I really need is this one. And this one. No, not even. This one. Which are both being done here, so I might as well not do the merging at all. What else can I skip? Hopefully nothing, maybe nothing. I don't know, maybe this can also be moved later on actually, but I'm not sure. Let's move this down. Oops. Okay, now there is hope again. It's still going to crash in the same place. Hey, Demir. And no, Ali, I'm not supporting VR yet, but I would be interested in that. I'm afraid, however, that it is far away, because what I understood is that VR is so different that I probably need to just use a certain library which is different from what I'm doing. I own a Valve Index, so I would really like to be able to make VR games, but yeah, far away, unfortunately. If now I run it, it crashes in the same place, but we have a set binding map printed now. And that is what I needed to do everything that has been postponed. Well, there's a set binding map here, which is identity. And another one here, which is also the identity. Oh, sad face. What the hell? Seems highly unlikely. But I guess we'll see that later then, because I don't know. I'm just gonna pretend that this map is correct, and then apply it. It's still difficult, isn't it? I need to compile my shaders, finish it. Which means I need to call build shader multiple times. And build shader is a member of shader input data. The shader input data is a member of the characteristics. Because imp characteristics is a vector of characteristic range, which contains my shader input data. So it seems, or you would think at least, that I can have a loop here. But now I have a problem, because it doesn't make sense. That's what it does. It does not make sense. No. Why would I have a different... I don't need a different map per characteristic. It's nonsense. Yeah, I want it up. Why? Yeah, I'm sure that if I would write this in Rust, it would automatically flow out of my keyboard. None of these problems would exist if you just change the language. Yeah, a few times. It will blow over. I would say write it in Rust. Vulkan engine, a good one. Something that automatically generates the DLSL declarations. No doubt you will be able to overtake me to write in half a year, well, what took me 2 years, if you use Rust. So I'll see you in half a year. In the meantime, I'll try to figure out what I want here. I'm making this a bit too complicated, I think. I haven't written a single test that uses characteristic ranges yet. So no experience with it. I'm writing a Vulkan engine. And right now I'm working on the pipeline factory. Yeah, I just showed it here, and this is the result. UBT core dump. That's the result. Okay, the fix me asks, is this correct? I now know the answer. That is not correct. And the question is, where should I store my shader input data object? And in order to answer that, I'll have to understand what that object really is. What is it doing? Unfortunately, it is huge. It is huge. It has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It has 13 containers. Hmm. Yes. I'm using a 0+20. Yeah. I don't know. So maybe I'm just, maybe to help with this, start moving stuff around. Like, I'll think a little bit more out loud. So the shader input data object is used for something, and I need to know for what exactly. In order to decide where best to store it or where it belongs. And if I look at the member functions that it has, I see, for example, these add functions: add vertex input binding, add push constant, add texture, and uniform buffer. Those are really things that you would call just once. For example, the add uniform buffer. This is called for one pipeline twice because I have two of them, and a third time here. So I call for one pipeline, I call them 3 times, but that's because I have 3 different uniform buffers, bottom, left and top. Now each pipeline requires its own shader input data, apparently. But it doesn't mean that it has to be an element of the current class, which happens to be, well, pipeline characteristic. No, not. 28 years in C++. The 46 years is when you count everything. Me sitting behind the computer, programming something. I started basically in BASIC. Do you guys mind if I stop reading the chat, because it distracts me too much? So you can chat. I have to concentrate here, so I'm switching to another window. So no chat. This whole characteristic thing was a bit over the top, I think, because it makes things now extremely difficult. The idea was that the pipeline would be constructed by parts. So it would have several pipeline characteristic objects, and each of them is responsible for a part. And then you can combine the characteristics. So it's not like I have one object for a pipeline, but more like a lot of little objects that are pipeline characteristics that can be specialized. And then, yeah, it's much easier to build pipelines from that. That was the idea. But I made it very general. I made it as follows. In order to create a pipeline, you need a certain amount of data, vectors and other information. And I put all that data into flat create info. Let me just show what that contains. So flat create info contains all the vectors that are needed to create, and other information like, I don't know, where is it? Maybe it only contains vectors. Now here's something. Pipeline input assembly state create info. And so on and so on and so on. All these things as well. These, I guess I just picked some defaults. But they can be changed. So now a characteristic then says, okay, it tells the flat create info that it is going to take responsibility for a part of one of the things. For example, it's going to call this add here with a vector, a pointer to a vector that it owns. And it says, well, I'm going to provide a number of these things. Maybe it's the only thing that the characteristic does. The flat create info is just collecting pointers to these vectors in another vector. So it ends up with a lot of pointers to vectors, which are going to make up well, the end factor with all the vertex input binding description. And then the way that it works is that initialize is being called on, ignore the X. Initialize is being called, show the real initialize, yeah. So this is a characteristic, a real characteristic, and initialize is being called on that. Here's another characteristic, and also initialize is being called on that. Initialize is being called only once, but the characteristic has other methods. It has fill. Well, if it is not a range, like in this case, fill does nothing. But if it is a range, besides initialize, it also has a fill. And I think update must be called after initialize and also after fill. But it's just, I don't know, updating something. I did not implement fill at all, I think. This is something else, EVIO. No. So I never even implemented the fill. The only fill I have is for the non-range characteristic, which is doing nothing. It's an empty function. But we can see in the pipeline factory how this more or less works. Let's move pipelines. Right, I'll go to the factory. Yeah, pipeline factory. Pipeline factory starts with start. It creates pipeline cache task. It creates the pipeline cache, and then at some point it comes to initialize, which just runs something. Yeah, pipelines are being moved around. It's not really interesting, I think. I mean, it already works, and then it's not interesting anymore. So at some point we get here, and it's going to call the initialize, and after initialize we call update indeed. So a single factory has one or more characteristics, which might or might not be a range. And if they are arranged, then I end is yeah, further away than when this could be a range of just one, or it can be a larger range. And for each what do you call that? Say point. For each point in a range. No, sorry, these are characteristics. That's nonsense. This is not about range. This runs over all the characteristics that the pipeline factory has. And now we call initialize simply on each of the characteristics. Once, right? And then we create multiple for loops inside each other, and each for loop runs over the range of each of the characteristics. So you have 5 characteristics and they're all ranges. Then we have 5 for loops that run over all the nested for loops that run over all the ranges of each of the characteristics. So once we are in the inner loop, so this would be once you get here, we are inside the fifth for loop. We run again over all the characteristics, and this time we call fill. And what is being passed is the value of the for loop that belongs to that characteristic. So characteristic I is running over in a for loop over the whole range, and then whatever that the point in that range at that moment is being passed to fill. So fill is then responsible to update whatever it's doing for the next value in its range. And after we do that for all of the characteristics, we have a flat create info that is fully updated in order to create the next pipeline. So then we get the realized descriptor set layouts, which I doubt already exist, by the way, but and it tries to create a pipeline layout from that, which I can differ for, yeah, because any of those characteristics could have changed something. And this call results in a set binding map, which must be applied. I don't think that it really is that important for me or for the code here to know which characteristic it was. I think that what I need to do is just have these characteristics inside fill or inside initialize, whatever they want, register that they are interested in a callback whenever a map is known, and then I can do that callback here. It seems like a sensible idea. And then I don't have to do this. I just let the characteristics handle the callback. Well, I have a map, so here you have the map. You needed the map, here's the map. And then it can do whatever it didn't do yet. I think that is a good idea. So then I need something that allows me to register multiple callbacks and have them be called back later. I think I already wrote that. What was that part of? I guess events. I wouldn't call this an event, but at least I can look at it, I think. Maybe to get ideas. Well, I think my event library, if I even have that, is very old and might not be. I have events here, but I'm not sure how good it is. It's very minimal as well. There's a copyright 2018, that's not super old. Yeah, but I think I copied this text is very old, like 20 years old. So I think I just copied very old code, and then you really have to think about 20 years ago that I wrote something like this, and I just copied it and maybe re-implemented it, and I'm not sure, probably not even. Yeah, this design works with event clients and event servers and event types and busy interfaces and all whatnot. Very difficult, as usual. So here's the client that wants to have a callback. Yeah, this is really this is written for well, fuzzy objects, say, that can disappear at any moment or that run in different threads and all whatnot. So it's way too difficult for, or maybe I should say too powerful for what I need now. And the code is probably too old to just look at how I implemented it. I'm not sure. Well, maybe I did rewrite it partly. It's using standard function. But I don't think I used that 20 years ago. Definitely not. Yeah, I think this is for intra-thread events. And what I'm doing now is inside a single thread. So we'll have to look for something simpler, I think. I guess that even the let me think. I never finish my sentences. It's so annoying. I think too fast. I cannot keep up. Yeah, what I want to say is that I think that this is even has a fixed function signature for the callback. So theoretically, you would say I could even use a function pointer. But yeah, it's not really, because it is I want to do a callback on an object. Because lambdas replace almost everything. I don't think I need or should use a standard bind or something like that. Although maybe then I could convert a member function call to a plain function pointer. And I doubt that's possible with a lambda, but well, might as well use standard functions, I think. And yeah, I thought that maybe the flat create info would be a logical place to put the queue for this. It doesn't feel clean, I must say, but of all the objects that I have, it seems pretty logical place for now anyway. So let's add yeah, just a vector, I guess, or can do that vector of standard functions that are callbacks, which don't return anything, and they take a const reference to a set binding map. And the set binding map is defined in vulkan descriptor. Not sure if standard function is what header I need. Not sure, just no idea. And that function is in functional, I think. Functional seems like a good header if it exists. Yeah, functional. So now I have a private list of possible callbacks. And I'm gonna need a new function, do set binding map callbacks. The size of a standard function is about 24 bytes or something. I might as well use a reference to it. So this runs over all the standard functions inside this container here, which is a vector. And then we just do the callback, passing whatever we call here to these functions. These functions return a void, and they take a set binding map const reference. So that would work. I need to make public, so let's move it down. I try to put my functions more or less in the order that they are used. So this one is like at the bottom, right? But now I need to add another function which registers the callbacks, and then yeah, maybe I don't really know where or when it is being called. Now it does seem logical to put it close to where to this function. So add a function that adds a callback. Yeah, okay, now I forgot what the type was for of this thing. Display standard functions. Suppose they can be moved. Not sure if that's a problem. Is there a problem? Why would I move a lambda? Probably going to call this with a lambda. So then the standard function has to be created. So actually I'm going to pass it by value. Now this is by value, so the standard function is being created anyway. I pass a lambda that creates a standard function. And now we're adding it to this vector, the pushback. But now I use a standard move. I don't think that the compiler makes a difference between emplace or pushback really, but well, why not? If this compiles it, it's not worse than a pushback. Yeah, because a standard function, if you pass enough data with it, then it allocates memory, and then it's better to do this standard move. So it will just move the pointer to the memory instead of make a deep copy and then destroy it again. Waste like that. Okay, let's call this thing. Nope, doesn't want to be in the history. Pipeline factory.cxx. Already have it open. Why would I have that open in this window? Oh, this window. Yeah, that makes sense. So here I have the map, and I'm just going to call do your thing, because might as well move it if I do it like this. I'm not sure though. There's nothing to move because I don't copy it. So I might as well pass it as a const reference. Which is what you do here. And I'm getting confused with my tabs. Right, so that should do the trick. Now we do the callbacks, but I still need to get my callbacks. So my characteristics now need to take a responsibility to say, hey, I want to call back as soon as you have the map. But I would not be here, but more. This is a pipeline and this is also a pipeline. Why? Pick something. Although window.h also doesn't make much sense, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, well, it does. So this is my pipeline characteristic. And I make here the promise to the flat create info that I will update this vector. Or was it another one? Was it this one? Oh, this is descriptor set layout, so it makes more sense. And yeah, I promised that, and that promise can only be fulfilled by calling build shader. But we're not calling build shader anymore. We're only calling preprocess. Now the correct way to call build shader can be seen in the other applications. For example, to just I call preprocess. And then later I call just the build shader on the same object. And that whatever I pass here, I have to pass here, and we have to pass a compiler. So yeah, it looks like very much like this, I guess. If I would do that here, well, I need a compiler, okay, and then yeah, that's it. Exactly like this. Well, I don't think it makes much sense to do it inside this loop and get two callbacks, two separate callbacks. It's going to be the same map anyway, right? So we do this outside this loop. Oops. Well, that's not too clear. Maybe I should put the lambda here and then indent it. That's a little bit more clear that this is a lambda. Something like this. Okay, but we need owning window to still exist, and well, M shader input data. So you have to capture this for the M shader input data, and also pass owning window. By value, right? Owning window. And then maybe the shader word. I don't know where that came from. Oh, here. Yeah, we can redo that, I suppose. This uses a window, however. I can pass window to build shader as well. It's just owning window is just a base class. If I capture this window, then I can redo this, I guess. I don't want to capture too much. I mean, if you capture a lot of things, then the standard function is going to allocate memory, and yeah, I don't know. I just don't like that, you know. Although I said it many times before, this code does not need to be fast. So it's totally ridiculous that I do this kind of macro optimization. And maybe I shouldn't, because yeah, that would be code duplication no matter how you put it. Okay, I'm going to make it slow then. Let's capture everything. Can tell it capture everything by value, so like that. I think that should work. Let's add some debug output here. At which point it becomes slightly stupid to print that before we call this. Did I call it add set binding callback? I think so. Nope, I call it add set binding map callback. That's strange. There's a do or an add in front of it, and possibly an S behind it. If I add my X here, then yeah, okay, which then I do that. Now without an X, it's that. So figure it out. Yeah, not printing that because it's going to print it for every callback. Anyway, no. Okay, first things first, let's see if it compiles. I'll look at the chat again. How's the chat going? See a lot of chat there. Set binding map callbacks. Wait, what did I do here? Expected closing parenthesis, if I pronounce that correct. Void. Nothing wrong with it. Why is it complaining? Maybe it doesn't know what a set binding map is. Or is that stupid? That could very well be. Sometimes the errors are really weird. It says something like, I expected, closing parenthesis, but the error then really is that it just doesn't know what to type it. That came before that. Error, use of undeclared identifier do set binding map. That's not something that I added. Do, oh, I did actually. Yeah, but on the flat create info. Kept to default must be first. What is the word for that? Pedantic? Yeah, do I still have that somewhere? That ever wondered what a true hacker's life looked like? Is it in my profile or something? Anyway, let's go to Google and type in hacker FAQ. The top link is this. That is me, completely. If you read this, it's like it's about me. But most notably, answer: no, hackers aren't, contrary to media reporting, the people who break into computers. Those are crackers. So if you want to know what a hacker is, read that. Then you know what a hacker is. Unknown type name set binding map. Did you mean vulkan descriptor? I bet I did. And it compiles. And it crashes still. Oh, reached graphics pipeline. Shocking. That's impossible, of course. Unless indeed the map is an identity, which it is. We have a debug output for that somewhere. It's kind of hard to look for when you don't know anymore what it was. And the word lambda came. It was lambda. Lambda. There it is. So let's go to the bottom and then do up. Well, this one. Set binding callback. Set binding callback lambda with a non-identity translation. Awesomeness. And I guess we have one more call like this, but then with the identity. So if we go up, that's another one. It's indeed 00 to 00, etc. So it's the identity, no change. And if we go up again, we go to the bottom again, I think. Yeah, there's two calls. The first one is identity and the second one isn't. Yeah, the beauty of it is that now I am calling build shader, which fills in everything that I needed for what I do below that. So it's just working. But I'm not using the set binding translation yet. So if I continue past this assert here, I think the core dump is from, it's just a fatal exit. If I go past this, then I get a lost device, so my GPU locks up for a few seconds, which is not good for the stream. And before that can be solved, I really have to use the mapping. So now we have to go back to the window.h and then use it. No, we are not there, not even close, I'm afraid. Right. I don't think any Vulkan engines that are finished exist yet. So I'm not sure what you mean with own. There's many people who are writing Vulkan engines, and maybe there are few that are more or less finished, I don't know. Or usable at least. Build shader. It's just a lot of classes that all work together. The main problem is that it is so much. Okay, nothing of this seems to be depending on set indexes or bindings, except of course the preprocessor 2. So let's go into there. Declaration context container. Gets container, right? Source code. Run over all the declaration contexts and call generate. That definitely has to use values. Set indexes. What happens after that? Positions, variable, look up the strings, grow it, store it. Decoration, sorry. Also nothing. That's super interesting. That it seems that it is in this case hidden all of it inside this generator, which then means not that generate, not that generate, not that generate, not even that one, this one. Bindings. See the resource declaration pointer. There we have one. Set index hint. But that's just a set index, right? Here it is used. I need to store this. Where can I paste this? The other option is that I remember it, but nah. Set index hint. And binding. And the binding is, we did get the binding from where? Okay, now we are going to generate it, I guess. Generate the declarations. And this simply uses binding and set index hint. I don't want to change the set index hint. I remember vaguely that I had a reason for that. I even remember the reason, but it's too difficult to explain. So I think the mapping should happen here. I'm just going to pass the map to this this function, and then we do the mapping while generating. Unfortunately, this is a virtual function, isn't it? Well, it's not that unfortunate. I can simply add mapping to the shader resource declaration context. That would work too. Because generate was called from the base class, so nah. Cannot pass it. Well, I could pass it, but it feels weird, if you understand what I mean, because there is a lot there is a few other classes that are derived from declaration context, which have nothing to do with sets and bindings, and then they still call this, and then what do I pass? An argument that they don't even use? I wouldn't like that, so I'm not going to pass it to preprocess 2. But if I want to add it to the declaration context, I do need to know where that came from. And that came from here. I must say that is almost as dubious. Yeah, not easy, not easy. I have a map for other bindings. Did I see a binding used in the... Oh, that was a texture, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Maybe I should remember or ask myself how many shader resource declaration contexts I have. Shader resource declaration context. Apparently I have one of those per set index hint. Which, by the way, was the reason I didn't want to change the hint, otherwise I cannot find the correct declaration context back. And just include a type, but interesting type, another include a pointer to the thing, part of shader input.cxx. There is a dynamic cast here, that is also interesting. Could use that in my new code. See the resource declaration context reference. Resource variable. Simple builder. It's probably just implementation stuff. Print on final, etc. Okay, let's go look in this. I'm particularly interested in the dynamic cost. That's preprocess 1, I guess. Yep. It doesn't really have a name. I mean, it's called Linux viewer, as you can see here. I called it that because when I started, I had in mind to build an OpenSim virtual world viewer, specifically for Linux only, because, well, all my code only works on Linux. But if you ask me, I'm more interested in I don't know, playing around stuff. Well, no, mostly I don't know. I'm definitely interested in virtual worlds and 3D stuff. But I'm also interested in I don't know how to call it. Well, yeah, let's say AI. Not really, but genetic or evolutionary learning, and then something graphics with it. Loads of YouTube about it. Let me see if I can find something. What I meant. As you can see, I'm interested in chess. Let's neural network. Yeah, there it is. Something. Yeah, these videos are all interesting to watch. So just search for evolution neural network and watch all these things. And as you can see, they are using show. Yeah, I wanted to see a 3D world like here, but you see them move here. Evolving predator versus prey, who will win? You have also things about ants, they are also super interesting. I programmed some creatures and they evolved. So how, clickbait, alarm. No, you need tons of data to make, to teach a neural network to recognize stuff. But if you do it entirely inside the virtual world, then you can create your own stuff. So yeah, tons of data, but it's just all internal. You just generate, say a race car that tries to race over a track in a virtual world. You can just do that race 1,000,000 times and then it learns that way. I still did not decide how to transfer my map to this function, to preprocess 2. If I do not want to add an argument to generate, then the only option I have, I think, is to duplicate this for loop, put it into preprocess 2, and then transfer the map to the declaration contexts. And then generate can pick it up from there. It's kind of silly, but What the hell, you know, we need to make progress. Getting tired of this whole descriptor set thing, I must say. It takes way too long. So we run over all declaration context, which I already have here again. Yippee. Do a dynamic cast again, and then continue again, and then we call here set map, yes. Set binding map. Yeah, that's obviously what I wanted. Right, I still need to pass then the set binding map to preprocess 2. I never can decide where to add a new argument, at the front or in the middle or at the end, or I'm going to add it at the end in this case because, yeah, I don't know, it's a pure feeling question, nothing to do with logic. And the thing is called set binding map const reference. And I forgot where it was. Descriptor. Descriptor. Okay, we have that. And yeah, we also need to add that to the declaration. So let's do that immediately. This is the header file, preprocess 2. There it is, and then I need to add this set map thingy. Yeah, I cannot really, yes, I have to pass a pointer here. And we are having here the shader resource declaration. So this is not a virtual function, it is something that more or less goes in front of generate, but after generate 1. I'm gonna rename generate 1 anyway. Set binding, oops, set binding map const ref, no, pointer, const a pointer, and that is the set binding map. And I'm just going to store it in my set binding map. Which we don't add, which you then add. I don't know how to say that. Okay. Why is it separate from the other one? Nobody knows. It will never be known. Okay, I still need to know that this is a descriptor. Now generate can make use of it. Generate can make use of my binding map. Okay, I lost where generate is. Generate not here. Generate 1. Generate. Select that again, right? There we are. And now the big challenge of converting a binding. I can only convert a binding if I know what the set is. I should be able to convert a set by just knowing what the set is. And in case of a binding, I need to pass both, I think. I still need to invent the interface for that, by the way. But let's just do that inside here. The easiest way. I'm going to call this a hint to make it a little bit more clear. And then I'm going to make the translation here. I want to use a int because it is like ints over unsigned types. Set index is the translation thing, which is a pointer. Let's call it convert. So assuming that works, then we get here our set index as an int. And likewise, my binding becomes, well, why call it differently than convert? It's the same set, but with binding hint, right? And in this case we have it's a single declaration, so we have a single binding and a single set index, which are the same. Oh, okay, I can do that higher up then. Yeah, there's no change, no. Okay, that didn't make any sense, therefore. Let me just delete it to DD and put it here. And I have no need for binding hint. I'm just going to put the hint there. uint32. Okay. uint32 type. I don't know why, but apparently that's what it wants. And well, let's face it. I just called it set index, and I'll stick with that, which is defined in Descriptor. What is the namespace that I'm in now? I have no idea. Namespace in shader builder. Okay, Descriptor. And then the set index becomes something that I cannot print like that. I need to do get value, otherwise I get a hashtag in front of it. Shader resource declaration. Let me check if this is really correct. It's really correct. Yep, totally the same thing. Okay, so this is now set index get value, and that is binding, and this is again set index get value, and then we are done. I think set index. Yep. Except that I still need to implement this here, the convert. So I need a convert that takes a set index hint and an uint 32 type for the binding. Oh, there we go. Set binding map. Descriptor set index, I guess. Okay, I'm not sure how simple that is, so let's just put it in a .cxx file if I have that. I have that. Amazing. Let's see if this compiles by simply returning nothing. What am I doing? Just everything. Make. Health, yeah, we kicked everyone out who didn't like object-oriented program. They're all banned. What was the error? Let me add filtering again. The filtering is already on. That's impossible. What the heck? It was not on. I don't know. No type named set binding map in namespace vulkan descriptor. Can you say missing header? Include descriptor set binding map. Yes, tips for people wanting to learn programming. What is your objective? Why do you want to learn programming? Too late, I already fixed it. But you're right. Thank you, Pedro Maria. This argument to member function set binding map is type const but function not marked const. Might be slightly annoying. This is a const function. Therefore, m per stage declaration context is const. Therefore, it returns a const pointer. Therefore, I must cast it to a const pointer here. Therefore, this thing is const. Therefore, I cannot call set binding map. I think that shader input data is basically single threaded. The whole shader input data object should not be accessed by two different threads like ever. Therefore, there's no real reason why I would make it const. Whatever I moved is const. What is going wrong then? Depends on where the preprocess 2 is being called from. Let me first check that. Hell, let me check that before I remove this. Well, it's being called from build shader, which is not const. So why is it const? A mistake. Well, mistake. An inheritance. What is the right word for that? Legacy. It's a better word, I think. Or yeah, I don't know. It comes from when this was still one function maybe, or I don't know. Because it could be const. Because preprocess was not doing anything, yeah, it's just... It was const. No, it's not const anymore, okay. So now this pointer is no longer const, which means that add returns a non-const reference if I want to. It was always a little bit scary, but okay. which means that oh shit. That's not helping. I think this whole container is could still make it const. It's just bullshit. It's a set of const pointers. I'll have to change that. I don't like this. Non-const things are, I mean, pointers okay, but non-const pointers in a super threaded application, asking for trouble. It is scary-ish. Plus I might as well add a const back here, because now I'm getting just an element. Let's see, so this can be const, I think. Definitely can be const. Might as well keep this const. And this too. Yeah, Mr. Gaia Swat, you want my dedication? I think the secret formula is autism. That would help. Now I've got to look at what errors. No matching member function for call to insert. Is declaration context const or what? Oh, right. No, it's something else. That is, of course, because I changed the container. I'm going to make this return a pointer, I think. Now I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what. Back up. This is returning a pointer. Let's stick at that for the moment. And then the next line. This is a comment. So is used in and now returns a non-const pointer. $2021. Yeah, well. What? Oh, yeah, I added it to the context. How do I get that here? Oh, right. Yeah. The callback. So there is a lambda added somewhere. which is nobody knows. So lambda and something, and then set binding map even. No. I give up. What? What? Maybe I have to switch like this? No. Oh. I don't know. Most of my lambdas just have square brackets period, but this had capture stuff in it. Yep. So I'm looking for this thing here. Might as well look for that. So dpsx backslash. Yeah, I guess I just have to add it, pass it to shader input data here, or pass to the pass the build shader. I mean. Yeah, I don't see another way. The annoying thing is that the other programs don't have it. The other two programs don't have it yet. So I need a unity, an identity map, I mean. Explicitly for those. Well, no, I don't, because they don't even need it. They don't use it, that's why they don't have it. But all the same. No, you just have to change the... I have to change them. I have to change them to use the same thing as here. To use the lambda. There is no other way. Very annoying, but okay. So this thing then gets added another descriptor set binding map, const reference, con type, set binding map, which subsequently is being passed to preprocess 2. And we go to shader input data. Look for preprocess 2. Already have it here. I meant look for build shader. Add it here. And then also add it here. No? No? Well, I will put it here. And then we add it there. And then we need to have a default value, which is not possible in this case because of the comma stuff. So let's just make something else, like where is build shadow being called? Oh, this is being called here. So I'm just going to Descriptor. No, like I said, that was not possible. Plus I'm in uniform buffers, there's nothing to change here. I do need a copy of this though. I don't like this anymore, this is just nonsense. So I need to call preprocess1 and then I get a block that looks like this. Okay, I give up. Frame resources count, not test. I guess it's just that. That is not working. We already left this function. What? What the heck is this? This is a window. Okay, that survives. But not this function. Don't even understand that comment. Ah. Okay, let's undo this. Try that as well. It works for IMQ. It should work for this one. Unless, of course, I do translation, but I don't think so. Could check that, but I didn't. It's going to run Linux viewer. And it crashes. Okay. Oh, annoying. This has a version. This too. So we do not do any pre-processing at all. Why does it crash? I mean, if this crashes, then so will IMQ. That's not good. Oh shit. I think I restored too much. I guess I don't have the diff anymore on my screen. No, not with this output. Well, you never know. Let's scroll up. There's a compile. There's the diff. Come on, come on. The diff is on my screen. Yes, diff is on my screen. I guess I just need this. Yeah, at least you are get very close then. Yeah, even halfway. I'm only halfway my scroll back. No sweat. Where's the Yippee, we have our triangle now. Well, I already had that on 1.5 years, but this still works. And for C is getting to... No, it's not. It's broken. It is broken. Why is it broken? Oh, I jumped. Set is that. You think that's the reason? Something went wrong with the set. Ah, I know what. I didn't implement that function. Nevertheless, I think I was returning. Ah, this is -1. Yes, I totally understand it. Isn't it good when plan comes together? 3 after the 18. What was it? Set binding map is defined here. Well, actually I have to go there. Might as well CXX. Yeah, this is returning the default constructed set index, which gets the value -1. I have to implement this function. Well, if binding 1 exists, then binding 0 must exist. Or is this complete bullshit? Might not be 100% true. Yeah, you can have descriptor sets, I think, with bindings that you don't use. In which case they might not turn up in the map. I'm not 100% sure about that. I think I just have to rewrite this whole thing. It doesn't map it things in a logical way, I think. What we need is a map from I'll use a vector or not. I'm going to use a. I'm even going to use a utils vector. It's going to store something, and then the index is a set index. No, a set index hint. Which is defined in Descriptor, of course. Well, this converts sets into sets. Because what shall I store in it? Set data, I don't know. Something. I'm going to make a struct here. Hell, it's local.class. Struct set data. Which among other things contains set index hint. We concentrate only on the set index and forget about the binding for the moment. Then I need to be able to just add a translation from one set to another. So instead of add from, I'm going to add, well, also a from too, but it's not being passed a set binding, but it's being passed the set in a set index hint. I mean, a set binding is a pair of set index hint and an int. But now we only do the set index hint. I'm calling it set index hint. And again, this is just by value because it's a wrapper around the size type. And this then will do the following. In the end, it will assign in the end we want to do that with this input we will get the translation to from. There are problems, however. First of all, the map might not be large enough. So I have to do something like if that thing is not less than the size, which means if it is larger or equal to size. This is a vector, so I have to use int, which is equal to the size. Then we need to resize it so that it fits. Yeah, and there is another problem. If it was already set, that we don't want that, so you get only one chance to set it. So the current value must be undefined. I think it is undefined. No. How about just undefined? Let's see, this is set map, this is set index hint, alright, so we're going to set index hint, which is a vector index, which has undefined, yes. Default constructed, you get undefined indexes. It is of course also not allowed to map two values to the same thing. It must be a bijective map. But yeah, shall I test it? I don't think that goes wrong, so I think this is enough. And then, within a given set, there can be a map for the binding. Which is unfortunately does a standard vector, but who cares? Let's call it uint32 or the bindings as before. And I guess this is basically a duplicate of what I just wrote. Except that we have to tell it which set it is, and then we have two bindings. We have a binding 1 and a binding 2. Binding from and to rather, but you can wonder if this can happen at all. Because probably we should just simply first call this function, and then it will exist. So I'm going to change it into an assert. And set map is nah, wait. This is already the set. There is no set. Nonsensical. Yeah, okay, so don't call add from to twice for the same B1. Which means I do need a map here, but it's just a binding map. Yeah, I do need a resize though. But just for the binding stuff. So if this is larger than binding map I end, then resize it. Yeah, duplicate with set replaced with binding. So then we don't have this anymore, or what? I don't think so. Don't have that. Now let's do, I mean, this is what I was using and I can still use it, I think. I just have to call the SB1 on the hint. This is new Vim. I don't know why do people ask what text editor I'm using? Is it because I jump to the end of the line and then jump back to the beginning of the line? Or is it because of the colors? Which is unrelated to the editor. The color is just a syntax outlining. Let me think. I have this at from to. For just set index, and then we also need to add the binding. So at the end I have to call this function. I could have known. It's just called binding. Yeah, and my binding is suddenly called an int. Let's change it into the usual type for bindings that I encountered today. Is B2 binding. But this must be called on the thing that we have here. And well, the source one. So that would be msetmap then, right? Msetmap SB1 set index hint. I think this is better, and now it's easier to write these two functions. I'll write them here because then I can see the thing, and then I'll move them later to the CXX file. So this, well, actually no, it is so short now. I can just leave it in line. This is going to be set index hint. Yeah. Put it in one line. And that one is going to be let's see. Something is not right. But it is a struct, right? Where's my struct? I lost my struct. Here's a struct. Set index hint. Yeah. I'm so confused, but I think my editor is going to save me with compile errors. So given the set index hint, we need translation of binding. So we get our map, our object which contains the binding map then for that set. And in this case it also contains a translation of the mapped set index hint. Hello Kevin, how are you? I'm almost going to bed though, like in minus 18 minutes. Probably just want to see this work first. Let's go for the compile. Oh, what the? Undo, no, redo, I don't know, save it. I'm gonna go over the compile errors now. And then hopefully Descriptor does not know what set index in .h is. Really? Really? It's defined in set index. Let's get rid of the hint then. No member named I. Yeah, that's a duplicate. That won't work. And the get value we also do not have. And the undefined we also don't have. Ouch. Can I get it to a value of -1? What do you think? I'm gonna assume that it is possible, although I'm not sure at all. I'm actually thinking that it's not possible. So I want resize to add new members being equal to -1, which is not possible for an unsigned int. Yeah, well, there we go. Okay, I'll just fill in the whole thing. Because I know what it is, right? It's 32 bits. Anyway, resize, factor resize. I have a strong feeling that this is not possible. But you never know. Hey! And nobody sees a resize here. Where's the resize? Place back, erase, max size, shrink to fit. resize. Yeah, we can do that. You can do it. Value type can be passed. Let's call it 2. 2 copies of value are appended. How awesome is C++? Everything is possible. Everything is possible. Boom, 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 boom. I guess in certain IDEs you can press Control F and then you'll get a manual page. That sounds handy, yes. I agree that my editor has no idea that this is a vector resize. No idea. So yeah, that would be better. That would be better. Yeah, the compilers, the stupidities. I guess I'm not really interested in the binding map at this point. So we should just work with that element, with that member. Error, no viable conversion from returned value of type const vector index to function return type vector index something else. Set index hint category. That's a vector with there's an index for something that stores set index hints. And this is, I do not really know, but let's just look at the code. And converts to a hint, yeah. Or do we? Or do we? No, we convert to a, we do convert to a set index. That's the whole idea here. You get a final value. Not even sure if that's correct. Yeah, it's not a hint anymore. After conversion, it's not a hint anymore. So this is what it should be. And then you would say, then why is this called hint, right? Why not just have that? So I have mset index, and then the hint is not wanted. But that means that SIH2 also should be a non-hint. That's going to give other compile errors. But let's be like the Fed, right? The central bank of central banks. Just fill one hole with another. This looks fixed, and then let's see what the new compile error is. It is cozy to watch it, and the music is good. Set index hint. There's no way around it, is it? The whole add from to is also a bit silly. I mean, using set bindings. So the design is just wrong. The fact that now I need a cast proves that my code is wrong. That's really often the case. There are two possible things that you want to add. Either a binding mapping for a given set, or you want to add a mapping for a set. You cannot map... it's dangerous to map, say, a complete set binding pair to another pair. That could lead to inconsistent mapping. And therefore, this is a dangerous API, and I'm going to change it. That would almost mean that I have to get rid of set binding, which is kind of much for how late it is. So I think I'm just going to stop the stream and do this tomorrow, because clearly there's no end to it. Quantum mechanics is not that hard. Well, if you want to get into the gory mathematical details, then I guess it's pretty hard. I studied physics, but I never really got into the theoretical part of quantum mechanics, unfortunately. I think most I know about it is from YouTube. So a lot of YouTubes about good good YouTubes about quantum mechanics, including can't think of the word. Yeah, I'm going to close the stream. Soon. I do nothing for my living. I just live. I wanted to look something up for you guys. For which I have to go to. I think it's a different account. Let me switch accounts. What? I hope I'm still streaming, because I got signed out on my studio, but I think it's still working, right? Google Authenticator. It's asking for serious things. I don't have a Google Authenticator for this. Settings up, they're crazy. Opening settings up, tap Google. This makes no sense. I'm logged in on Google from another account. And I tried to log in to the same account from my PC. Many Shakur accounts, what the hell, man. No idea what they want me to do. It says get your phone, open the settings app, tap Google. That makes no sense whatsoever. There is, oh wait, there actually is a Google here. In settings, they are crazy. And then select the security tab, means you'll scroll down a little bit, scroll right. Security check up. Holy moly, they made it very difficult to log in. Yeah, but now everyone left, I guess, but here are some good things to watch. So we're talking about quantum stuff. There's one, visualization of quantum physics. Okay. Now I have to log in again as my other self. enter password. I don't think I can even do this. See, I have my passwords here in the database. Warning! OBS is running. I think it completely blocks me if I want to open something with financial info, but should be able to get my password. And gone. What? Is it still live? I thought the stream stopped because I couldn't get into the what is it? The YouTube studio page of it anymore. Ridiculous. I was just looking at the comments. Yeah, sorry for the idle screen all the time. I didn't know I was still